I just noticed now that in Canvas I named the example for last class, I named it Monday. We don't have class on Monday. So let's try Tuesday. I'll rename it. Alright, there we go. So, here's the example we had last time. And I'm going to focus on the last couple of things that we covered. We covered a number of different ways to do links for different purposes. Links to other pages, links to one of our pages, and so on. And we'll probably see examples of that. But really what I want to focus on is the sections of the page, and then how we got into CSS. So if we look at this page, this is where we left off last time. All right. Actually, no. Was that this one? Yeah. This is the one that I want to look at. We left off with this example, and in this page, we used some of the main tags that are used to break a page down into the most common sections found on websites. In other words, if you go to just about any web page on the internet, go to ESPN, you'll see there'll be a heading section, there'll be a heading section, there'll be a navigation, there'll be articles or sections, and then finally, the very bottom, there'll be a footer. So most pages are built around that basic template. Go to eBay. We'll see about the same thing. There's a banner at the very top, a header at the very top of the page. There's a navigation. There's a number of sections. And then finally, at the very bottom, there's a footer. So most pages follow that structure. And the first step in doing that is by putting that in the HTML. Because remember, the HTML defines the content of the web page. The content and the basic structure of the web page. So, we have our doc type at the beginning, like we always have. We have our HTML. We have our head and our body. And when I talk about these sections, I'm talking about inside the body. So what are the main sections that we talked about? The header section, which is sort of like the banner on the top of the page. All right. The navigation, which is a set of links. Navigation. We then have different sections of the page. In this case, we have a different section for each of the questions. And then finally, at the very bottom of the page, we have a footer that has additional information that's important about the page. So just about every page you have, every site you're going to have, is going to have those sections on a page. All right? And ideally, you're going to want to make those pages, all the pages on your site, have sort of a consistent look. Because you don't want people going from page to page and thinking that you're on a different site, with a totally different color scheme and organized in a totally different manner and so on. You're going to want some consistency from page to page. Okay. Questions about the sections of the main divisions of the page. The header, the nav, the section, and the footer. Typically, there'll be one header. There could be more than one nav, I suppose, but there will be at least one navigation and one footer. And there might be multiple sections, like we see here. Each one of these questions is a section. Instead of section, you can also use article. Use whichever one makes more sense to you. Does it seem more like a section or an article? It really doesn't matter one way or another. The other division that you can use is called an aside. And that's when you have sort of an article that's related to another article. It's like a side topic. All right. We then started out talking about style. And we said that style is in a different language. And it's not for the content of the page, it's for the appearance of the page. So anything about the appearance of the page is going to be controlled through CSS. All right? And that's a different language. And one way that we can tell the browser that we're using CSS and not HTML is through the use of the style tag. And that is going to appear in the head section of the page. And the style tag is going to contain a whole set of what I called style rules. All right? Style rules. And style rules generally look the same. And they look like this. They start out with a selector. And the selector determines what gets the style. Okay? Now, we're starting out using HTML tags as the selector. There's other kinds of selectors as well. We'll find ways that you can use other things other than the HTML tag to select different things on the page that are going to get the style rule. But to start out, we're going to use HTML tags as our main selector. So this says everything in the body gets this style rule. This says everything in the header gets this style rule. And finally, this says everything in the footer gets this style rule. Now, these style rules cascade. All right? In other words, if you define something on one level, if you define other things on a more specific level, those take precedence. So, for example, the body style rule says everything in the body is going to have a background color of Alice blue and a text color of blue. So everything in the body gets that style rule. But for two of the tags, we override that. For the header, so everything in the body gets that rule, but because the header is more specific than the body, that header section has a background of blue and a text color of Alice blue, which is that very, very light pale blue. And then finally, the footer has a background of red and a color of yellow. So that's why this page looks like it does here. The whole page, the body of the page, is that pale Alice blue, and the text is regular blue. The header is different, though, because we've overridden that style for the header. The style rule for the header is more specific than the whole body, right? So this little header area gets the style rule where the background is regular blue and the text is Alice blue. And likewise with the footer. I'm going to change the footer to look a little nicer. Maybe a background of white and a color of black. Doesn't stick out quite as much then. Now, that's what the selectors are. The first part of the style rule is the selector. That says, hey, this section of the page gets this style rule. What do the style rules look like? Well, they're included in these curly braces. All right. They have the name of an attribute, a colon, and then a value for the attribute. Then you have a semicolon, and you have the next style rule. The name of the attribute, a colon, and the value. I'm just dealing with colors here. So I'm using the background color and the color, which is the text color, or the color of the font. If we had more stuff, we would put it after the semicolon, attribute, colon, value, semicolon. So you can have a whole bunch of attributes here. They're all separated by semicolons. How do I know what I'm allowed to put here? I can't just put anything here. I have to put specific things here. Well, there's a whole list of CSS attributes. And we'll go over them a few at a time. We're going to start out mainly talking about color because that typically is the most obvious to see. But if you go to a good resource, W3 Schools, and you look under Learn CSS, there's a whole list of how to do stuff. How do you change the font? And they show an example of how to do that. Font dash family, colon, and then you have the list of fonts that you want to use. What's nice about the W3 Schools site is that you can play with it, all right? And you can take this example and change it, and it'll show you the difference that it makes. So let's go to try it yourself. And it shows an example here. And what happens if we change these two things to be the same? Then we can click Run, and it shows you the difference that it makes. So the nice thing about this is we can play with the style rule and see the effect that it has on the page very easily. So there's a whole bunch of attributes. Like I said, we're going to spend the rest of the semester talking about a bunch of different attributes. If you want to put a border around something, here's how you can do it. You can put different kinds of borders around things. All right? You can change the height and width of things. So almost anything you can think of that relates to the way the page looks, you can change via CSS. All right? So we're going to start with just a few things, and then every class or so we'll be learning more and more CSS as we learn more HTML. Now, we could go and we could do all kinds of things with this if we wanted to. We could literally make every tag on the page have a different color. H1s, background green, color white. H2s, color white, background green, or the other way around. Links, mention every tag that's on the page if I want to. And then if we view that page, it's going to be a mess. All right. It's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. We could make it even worse if we wanted it to. This is where the design aspect of web development comes in, right? We spent a few minutes here, and we spent some time last time talking about the technical aspect of coding. In other words, how do you make things on the page change their color? Well, we went over that. We do it with style rules, and this is how you do it. Now, whether it's a good idea to do it or not is a totally different issue. All right? And that's where the design sense comes in. Because we don't just want to use colors just to change colors and just to try to, make the page look wild or different or unusual. We actually want to use colors for a couple of different reasons on our site. What do we use colors for? What is a good use of color on a website? Yes?
To set an overall mood.
Okay, number one is to set an overall mood. All right, we're going to see how well our ESP is working this morning. Let's go to the website for Barbie. All right, what color do you think is going to be prominent in this website?
Pink.
Pink. Wow, let's see if we're right or not.
Guys, no, it's clearly black.
Yeah. Wow, you guys are amazing. Sure enough, there's an awful lot of pink on this page.
There's actually a lot more black on the page than I thought.
Yeah. Is anyone a fan of heavy metal music? What's your favorite metal band? Just pick one. Metallica, okay. What color do you suppose this site's going to be? Black, yeah.
Black, red, chrome.
It's going to fade to black.
There you go.
Black and red.
Black and red, and I'm sure if we went to black and white, it's actually not as black as I thought it would be. But there still is a lot of black on it, and it definitely does not have pink in it. So you're right. First thing is we're going to use it to create a mood, all right? And, if we were to go to the Wall Street Journal website, yeah, it's going to be very plain, all right? Almost no color at all, other than black and white, and a few splashes of different colors. But notice this. Here's something that's a different color.
Your attention's immediately drawn to it.
Okay. Why is that red?
Because it conveys information in accounting, and that's a financial
It
thing.
conveys information in accounting. Specifically, why are those numbers red?
It's to show decline here.
Yeah, it's a negative number. All right, go ahead.
I was actually going to say, so you notice it. It's the
Right.
important information on the page that they want you to see.
Right. I guess it depends on your perspective of why. What I mean by why is it different? Because you're both right. It's red because red means a negative number, and it's also red because red is going to stand out and get your attention. So when everything on the page is black and you have one thing that is red, your eye is immediately drawn to it. All right. Likewise with this over here, Wall Street Journal exclusive. All right. So we use colors to, number one, create an overall mood. You know, typically organizations have color schemes associated with them. You know, their logo and their branding and all that. So the colors that you put should reinforce that. Give that subtle message that, hey, yeah, you're on this page, you know, for this organization. The other thing is it can provide emphasis. All right? It can provide emphasis by guiding your eye to look for something. The other thing it can do is it can sort of show you how the page is organized. So let's look at Cleveland State University. Let's take.
Color coordinates specific pieces of information?
Yeah. In other words, look, there's a red bar, or a red bar. There's a green bar up here. Well, that shows you that this is different than this, right? It's sort of dividing the page into sections. All right? This could all be plain white if we wanted to, but then everything would sort of merge together. All right? Instead, though, this is the navigation, this is the header, this is a section, and as we go down, the different bands of color sort of separate the page into sections. So the colors help you organize the page logically. All right? So, footer, section, 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 header, and nav. All right? So we're going to try that with our page. We're not going to just add colors in for the heck of it. We're going to use colors that sort of are going to visualize, help the user visualize the page and draw their attention to certain things and help the user organize the information on the page, as well as conveying the mood that we're trying to portray. Okay? Now this web development frequently asked questions page is associated with Lorraine County Community College, and so we're going to try to make the page primarily blue, right? Because if you look at LC, blue is the main color. All right? So we're going to try to make this different shades of blue. That doesn't mean we can't use other colors to sort of accent things. All right? Now, let's go back to the drawing board and let's get rid of all the style and let's slowly add the style back in. This time we're going to do it in a meaningful way instead of just slapping styles together. All right? One thing to remember is unless you got a better idea, black text on a white background is always a good idea. Heck, even Metallica went with white text or white background and black text. So even someone as metal as that says, hey, you know, it still is a good color scheme. All right? So I'm going to start out and I'm going to make the body, by default, I'm going to give it white or black text on a white background. Now, interesting thing is I actually don't have to do this, right? Because that's already the default. But I'm going to do that just to make it clear. The H1s then, I'm going to give them a background of blue. And a color of white. All right. So now the page looks like this. And you know what? If you look at this, we really didn't do anything. But how much better that looks than just even that tiny little change. How much better it looks than just all white. I sometimes say that, like, when you first learn CSS, it's almost like going to an all-you-can-eat buffet, right? You got to feel like you got to try some of everything, right? And usually when you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet and you try some of everything, maybe the results aren't going to be so good for you, all right? Well, it depends. Maybe they are, but same thing with CSS. If you go a little overboard, then possibly the results aren't going to be good. So a little bit of restraint might be called for. So we're going to do things just in a way that sort of augment the page. Let's look at this page. That's nice about the banner because that causes the banner to stand out. What other things might we want to have stand out? Just looking at this. Whoops. Let me put it back the way it was. We have the banner like that. What else might we want to use to sort of divide the page into sections? Yes? The other headers, right? So let's look at this. It would be nice if this was a different color and this was a different color and this was, because that would reinforce the thought that those are separate sections. All right? So those are represented in H2s. So I'm going to go and I'm going to put a style rule for the H2s. And again, I'm going to pick something that sort of goes along with it.
So gold text in the blue background.
Pardon me?
Gold text in the blue background.
Gold text and a blue background?
We'll see color there.
Sure. Let's try that.
That might contrast order.
Let's see what that does for us. Not bad. All right. I certainly don't see anything wrong with that. Anything else we might want to do? Well, I would probably, just for sort of a visual symmetry, I would probably also change the header on the bottom of the page, or the footer, the header on the bottom of the page, right? The footer. I'm tongue-tied today. Today's my Friday, right? So I'm going to say I'm going to make the footer and I'm going to make it, let's make the background blue and the color white. Now, we talked about this problem last time. We sort of lost a link, right? We lost a link because it's blue on blue, all right? Links sort of have their own defaults. So even though we changed the style rule for the footer, we didn't change the style rule for the links in the footer. So I'm going to go and I'm going to change the style rule for the links in the footer. All right? Now, I'm going to do this first, and it's going to be wrong. All right? I'm telling you it's wrong so you don't think I'm losing my mind when it doesn't work the way I want it to. If I just say A, color white, that works, but these links. Why did they disappear? Well, because they're links too. And I said all the links on the page I want to have white text on a blue background.
So
No,
we have to type out.
white text.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Type out the specific link then?
Well, what we could do is we could do this. We could change the selector. You're on the right track. And the way that we could change the selector is like this. I can say footer A. All right. What do you suppose footer A means?
All the links in the footer.
All the links in the footer. So the links that are not in the footer don't get the style rule. Okay? And so that will kind of be what I want. All right. So all these links stayed the same, except the link in the footer looks a little different. Now, this certainly is not going to win any awards for brilliant design, but it looks nicer than just a plain one, and the colors that we added are actually meaningful. They help people organize the page. At a glance, if I take off my glasses and look at the screen, which they say is a technique that designers should use, take off your glasses, or if you have good eyesight, sort of blur your eyes, sort of mess up the focus of your eyes. And if you can still see how the page is divided into sections, then your design is good. All right? Because at a glance, you can see, hey, this page is divided into several sections. All right? Now, there's certainly things that we could do differently here. All right? That is sort of the art of design, is that different people could approach this problem differently and come up with other good solutions. And I don't just mean other color schemes. Certainly you could come up with different color schemes. If we weren't tied to blue, you could pick some other color scheme and it might look great as well. Even with blue, you could pick different shades of blue and come up with a good color scheme. But there's other things that we could do that we haven't talked about yet, like changing fonts, or changing position of things, or putting borders around things. All these things will come in due time. All right? But again, the intent is that the stuff that we do on this page, we're not doing just for the fun of it. We're doing it to help the user guide their way through this page and visually organize the page. All right. Now, next question. I typed in blue as the color, right? We saw that blue is a color. We saw Alice blue is a color. How do we know what colors we're allowed to use? Well, we looked at this last time, and we looked up HTML color names. And all modern browsers support the following 140 color names. So we could use any of these color names and it should work. For example, we could change blue to Dodger blue. And get a slightly different shade of our web page. All right? But you know that there's a lot more than 140 colors, right? You go to the store and you look at the big box of crayons. I don't know how many colors are in there, but probably more than 140. Right? So how do you get more than these 140 colors? You get that through the use of what's called a hex code. All right? Now, I'm going to explain how this works, and if you understand it, great. If you don't understand it, don't worry about it too much, because you can use tools to find the color that you want and copy and paste the hex code. Okay? Let's look at this hex code, for example, blue. Blue, it says the hex code is 0000FF. That is blue. That's the plain bluest of blue. All right? So let's look at that. These codes, these hex codes, are done using what are called hexadecimal. All right? Our regular number system is called a decimal number system, right? Decimal means 10, because we have 10 digits, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 10 digits. And any number that we make is a combination of those 10 digits. Doesn't matter how high we go. 30,672,587,276. I still only use those 10 digits to make that number, right? Hexadecimal is the same, except instead of 10 digits, there are 16 digits. All right? Why 16 is the power of 2, and computers work with binary, ones and zeros. All right? So that's two possibilities. So most things with computers are powers of 2. So 16 is a power of 2. It's 2 to the 4th power, right? Yeah, 2 to the 4th power. So we represent the digits as being 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then we start using letters. A, B, C, D, E, F. So if we were counting in hexadecimal, that's how we'd count. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. What comes after F? What would the next number be after F?
0.
Well, 1, 0. 1, 0. 1, 1. 1, 2. 1, 3. 1, 4. Dot, dot, dot. 1A. 1B. 1C. 1D. 1E. 1F. Then what? 2, 0. 2, 1. All the way through 2F. All right. What's the highest number that we could represent in hexadecimal? FF. Right? Like in decimal, what's the highest number? 99. 9 in the 10 spot, 9 in the 1 spot.
So you only get 2 digits?
Pardon me?
You only get 2 digits then per...
Well, no. 2 digits is significant when we talk about these color schemes, but hexadecimal you could go as big as you want.
Okay.
My question was only what's the biggest number you could get with 2 digits. So what's the biggest number you could get with 3 digits would be FFF. All right? Yeah. But 2 digits is significant because in the hexadecimal code for colors, there are 3 pairs of hexadecimal digits. All right? The first pair relates to how much red is in it. The second pair represents how much green is in it. And the third pair represents how much blue is in it. And there's 2 digits for each. So if I were to say 00, 00, FF, what does that mean?
Blue.
That's blue, right? Because there's no red, there's no green, there's just blue, and not just blue, but full blast blue. All right? So if I were to say 00, 0099, that would also be blue, but it would be a darker shade of blue because there's less blue. All right? Less blue in it. If I were to say 11, it would be so dark of a blue it would almost look black. All right?
Does that mean all zeros just is black?
All zeros is black. Exactly.
Would be white?
All F's would be white. Exactly. Did I type too many? Yeah. Yeah. All zeros are black, all F's are white. So, the lower the number, the darker the color is, the higher the number, the brighter the color is. So, if I were to do this, what color would that be? Pinkish, purplish, I would say instead of pinkish.
Magenta.
Magenta. All right. If I were to say this, what would it be?
Really dark magenta.
It'd be a darker magenta, right? Still be that sort of magenta, but there's less light of everything. There's less of everything, so it's going to be darker. If I were to say this, what color would it be?
More of a rosy color.
Yeah, it would be purple, but it would be more of a reddish kind of purple. It might be like a hot pink kind of purple-ish. And if I said this, just the opposite, it would be sort of a bluer kind of purple. Now, again, here's the good news. If you don't know any of this, it doesn't matter, because you can just copy and paste from a color chart. All right? So, for example, if you want that chartreuse, you can either use the name chartreuse or you can use this. Just copy and paste it, and you get that.
So there are only 14 colors in HTML with official names. The rest is in hexadecimal? Or
140.
I know.
140.
I said 14.
Right. Right. Now, some people have a real good sense of colors, right? You know, you look at people whose outfits are like matched perfectly, and you say, wow, that person knows, you know, design, knows colors, and can really put together colors that look good together. A lot of other people are like me, though, where they don't really have too good of an idea about what goes together. All right? For people that need some help, there are color scheme generators available that allow you to sort of pick the general sort of color that you want, and it will tell you what colors scientifically go together. All right? Because actually this deals with physics and optics and all that. Yes?
Do they only do like dualistic complementary colors, or can they do 3 and 4?
They can do more than just like monochromatic things. So let's look up, it depends on the particular color scheme. So let's look at HTML color scheme generator. All right, here's one. And it's kind of funny that this website has such a poor color scheme. All right? Because it's a little hard to read, but you can choose the color scheme that you want. This one is monochromatic, which means it will give you several colors that are all shades of a certain color. These are all shades of red. All right? Or if I slide this around, these are all shades of green. Or if I slide around, these are all shades of blue. But they're all, is monochromatic in that it is all shades of a particular color. If I click this, it's adjacent colors. So a 3-color scheme that have colors that are sort of close on the color wheel. These are triads, which are 3-color schemes that are apart from each other on the wheel. And this is a tetrad. I'm going to keep things simple and just do a monochromatic scheme. And keeping in line with the theme here, I'm going to pick a shade of blue that I like, and then I'm going to use this sort of as my palette. All right? Now, this gets back into what I talked about before, right? You don't want to use a million colors on your site. Now, you sort of get neutrals for free, right? Neutrals sort of don't count. So black and white really don't count as far as a color on your site. So you can use those without worrying about having too many colors. And I guess different shades of gray, you could count that as well. But what this gives you is, it looks like this gives you 5 different shades of blue. And that probably, between black, white, and the 5 different shades of blue, that probably gives you enough colors to come up with a good site. So I'm going to click on this color. It did pop up. There we go. So, I'm going to try using this color as the color for the headings. So I'm going to go here, and instead of Dodger blue, I'm going to put # this. Now for H2s, just to add a little bit of variety, I'm going to go and use this color. Let's just see what those do for us if we take those together. Alright. Well, kind of like that. I think that's a little too dark. So I will go instead, maybe use this one. I did use that one. Let's use that one. There we go. And maybe instead of gold, I'll pick the lightest shade of blue. All right. Yeah, gold kind of stands out better. So I'll go back to that. Or maybe I will use the darker blue. I just want to complete this example with all blue. So we'll use this shade of blue for our H2s. I'll leave it like that, even though I do like the gold better. All right. But you get the idea there. Now, my suggestion for you is, this isn't part of any assignment, I don't think, until lab 3 or 4, but you can still start playing with this now. So even if you were working on the earlier assignments where it's not done, take some time and play with it. You know, we call this a lab because the lab is the time to try things out. It's not just to get your work done and turned in. I know everyone wants to do their assignments and get them turned in as quick as possible, but use the lab time also as a learning time to go in and take some of these things that we talked about in class and play with them and experiment and try to change your pages. You're welcome to try anything via CSS, even if we haven't talked about it in class. But do know that by the end of the semester, we'll talk about a bunch of different things. All right, questions? Yes?
Maybe jumping ahead, but is there something, or rather, what is it in CSS that when you've built a page so that it displays differently on either a desktop or a laptop and on something smaller like a tablet or a mobile device like a smartphone?
Okay, I'll give you the short answer to that, and that absolutely is something that we'll talk about later on in the semester. There's a couple ways that you can do that. One of the ways you can do that is with flexible layouts. For example, using float instead of using float to position things, or using grid to position things, or using a flexbox to position things in the CSS layout. The other thing you can do is you can include what are called media queries in your CSS, where you actually say if the device is this wide, use this CSS file. If it's this wide, use that. So it's a combination of those two techniques. All right. We'll see you over in lab. I do need to borrow your thumb drive. I'm sorry. I will.
I was fingering it in my pocket for a second. I realized.
Yeah, I will do my best to remember to have one for next week.